we are back with another show. And after an eventful weekend of rugby, um, there's lots to talk about. You've got the African side, it's not having the greatest of weekends. And then also the Cape Town Sevens that kicked off this week and then ended. And it was very eventful. I went to it as well, but the Blitzboks went back to back. Australia back to winning ways, the Australian women team. And some key talking points in terms of the Challenge Cup and Champions Cup as well. And joining me is the ever present, ever knowledgeable, oh, from all the way from New Zealand, Hamish from Kiwi Lads. Yes, Hamish.
Hello, how's it going? Well, eventful weekend overall in terms of the matches that did take place for the Champions and Challenge Cup. Not the best week for South Africa, like you mentioned. One win from about the 6 games that the South African sides took part in. But the good news is the Cape Town Sevens, back-to-back champions. For the Blitzboks, the atmosphere was absolutely incredible, or at least it looked that way through watching it on TV. You got to watch it in person, so I'm sure that you were absolutely hyped all throughout it.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. We'll get into it later, but anyone Cape Town Sevens, you have to go to it, or try to go to it. Or if you can't go to a Cape Town Sevens, go to a Sevens event. There's nothing. It's different. It's not like a club rugby game where it's all serious and stuff. It's fun, and when it's time to get serious, the crowd does get serious. So yeah. But let's start on a positive note then for the South African teams. The Stormers go with a massive win away in France, and Bayonne were unbeaten. I think for how many games at home in the top 14. Of course, Champions Cup last time last time they lost at home was the Champions Cup, and it was against the Bulls last year. So the Stormers, massive win for them. Didn't I thought it would be close, but when seeing them win, that's massive. It shows that if you have the right systems in place and stuff, and momentum going your way, South African teams can compete with these from French teams, because we know French teams with their huge budgets and stuff. Like winning away in France is massive for them.
And we've got to remember, there were plenty of cards throughout that matchup as well. The red card for the Stormers, and then also a yellow card outside of that. 2 yellow cards at the end of the game for Bayern as well. And I think it was one of the more, I would say, eventful matches of the weekend. One of the much closer games as well compared to some of the other games involving South African sides. But the Stormers, they are going very well at the moment, undefeated in the URC, to pick up this win in what is a very tough group. They've also got La Rochelle, they've got Leinster in there, Harlequins, who didn't manage to pick up a victory, Leicester Tigers are in there as well. So, you have to get those wins early, and that's what we've seen for the Stormers. They actually sit 3rd in that group, as they weren't able to get themselves the bonus point, unlike 2 of the other teams. But next week at home, Cape Town up against La Rochelle. Those 2 sides have started building a little bit of a rivalry from their last few matches, so be very intriguing to see what they can do in front of the home crowd. And the home crowd should be hyped, because I've just seen the Blitzboks win that title.
Yeah, no, they should be. And even for the Stormers, they should just be amped for the Stormers, because they haven't lost a game all season. So
true.
It's incredible. But La Rochelle, they've played each other a few times now. So it seems like there's almost kind of rivalry. So most like with us and Leinster in the URC in terms of the semi-finals and finals. For them, it's La Rochelle in the Champions Cup. Of course, that's the stage in terms of not knockouts. But yeah. But what did you make of the red card, the Stormers, where they almost kind of what, stamped on the guy. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a tricky one because, of course, if you're underneath a rolling maul, you're always going to get stood on. But the thing that didn't help was the fact that he looked down, went, oh, he's on the floor, and then stood on him. Like, that's always
Yeah.
going to look a little bit bad, definitely with the 50 replays that they can show from different angles. But I think it wasn't the fact that he stomped him once. He kind of gave him a second little stomp there too. So, once again, just not the smartest play. And that honestly could have cost them that game up against Bayonne. That could have been the turning point that then had the Bayonne side get back into it. So I think that with that included, the fact that the Stormers still got themselves the win made it that much more impressive that they didn't let that little moment kind of cost them away from home.
Yeah. And I think we also have to remember they don't have any of the Springboks in that team. So that makes it even more impressive. So but that Imad Khan, the little scrum, he he's some magic, isn't he?
There's some very talented young players around at the moment. I feel like the Champions Cup, definitely with the international players who are missing, we're kind of getting to see those type of players. Even someone like a Brodia, I felt like did extremely well for the Sharks in the game up against Toulouse. He was one of those guys that I don't think got enough credit for what he was able to do. And it just seems to be at the moment, if you've got a good 9 and 10 combination, you're winning games. So I do think that is one big bonus for the Stormers. The fact that soon they will have Sasha back into the environment, that could change things. Damien Valimza, of course, he can slot in to the back maybe at 15, or whether he's going to be playing a little bit of 12 or 10 perhaps for the Stormers, depending on injuries. But no, I think they're in good hands at the moment, the Stormers, and looking like the most safe South African side, which I know probably hurts a little bit because I know that you don't like praising the Stormers, and that sounds like all we're doing at the moment. So why don't we talk about your Bulls side? Let's get into that while we're at it, while we're in a good mood.
Okay, while we're in a good mood. It's not the best of games from us. I saw the first half, most of it, like just seeing the tries. Like every time I have it on the phone in the stadium, I see a try being scored. Like, okay, well, if this goes the way it should, last 20 minutes, our bench full of Springboks should overpower them. But then I switched the game back on around 60, 70 minutes, and I see still no tries, so nothing. And then I see Bordeaux score try in like the 70th minute. I'm like, okay, just great. That's just great. Concerning signs, like even though our Springboks may have been a bit more fatigued, and so it's very concerning that you concede about 50 points at home.
Yep.
So I don't know. It doesn't seem like Juan Akman was the play, but I think you just have to stick with him right now. You can't afford to let another guy go. I think you just stick through it and see what happens at the end of the season, and then make your judgment.
Well, the last time that these two sides played at Loftus, it was 40 points to 46. So these two sides do seem to bring it out of each other. Throughout that first half, it was just a seesaw of one try for one team, then the other side would score, then it went back and forth. But the biggest concern at the moment for me when it comes to the Bulls is the second half. You know, so many times at Loftus, definitely from doing the live streams, we get told all the time, wait for that last 20 minutes. That's when the Bulls are going to win the game. And we were looking through at some of the stats at the halftime break, and a very concerning statistic kept on popping up, and that is the fact that the Bulls have not won a second half points-wise in about their last 3 or 4 appearances. So, you know, you look at them in this game, 33 points to 22 up at halftime. They didn't score a single point throughout the second half. That is when they're supposed to be at their most dominant, when the opposition are starting to fatigue, or at least should be, But it seemed to be the opposite. The Bulls were the side slowing down, and Bordeaux just kept on going for it. They scored themselves multiple tries late, 46 points to 33 the end score, so 24 points unanswered in that second half. It's a bit similar to what we saw for the Lions as well the week prior, in terms of the way that we saw them kind of just control that game. They had themselves a good early start in there too. But I would definitely say that for the Bulls, the next step gets a little bit more tricky. They're up against the Northampton Saints. They're going to be away from home for that game, but that might actually benefit the Bulls. They actually had some decent away wins, including, I believe it was actually in I want to say the quarterfinals of the Challenge Cup last year. They were able to pull off that good win over maybe Edinburgh at a stretch. Might have been who they were playing, but they just need something to go their way at the moment.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's fitness or what. It just doesn't seem like we can almost handle that attacking game for large periods, for such large periods. So yeah, no, it's concerning. I think with the Northampton game coming up, them winning away from home in France against Pau, and Pau are like second in the top 14. Right, that was a massive statement from them. So I'm not expecting to go there and win. We saw, I think, last year or 2 years ago when we lost there in the round of 16 or quarterfinal, and they just destroyed us almost with their pace. And I think that is one thing that makes these other teams a bit more better than us in us as South African teams. That sometimes the pace they play at is at times so much higher than we play. Seems almost like, because if you look a bit at that Toulouse game, the tries they scored in such quick succession, it came so quick. So yeah, it's concerning signs, but just feel like you have to wait till like after the big guns are now back fully, and you can wait. I think wait till the big derbies, and whatever the big derbies say, I think will determine our season almost. Because we've got the Sharks and then the Stormers back to back after Northampton. So it's fix up or suffer. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's a tricky one to have, those South African derbies around that Christmas period, because of course you want to finish the year on a high, but most of the time you go 1-1 in terms of those matches for the South African teams. I think last year those games were extremely competitive. So yeah, the best case scenario for the Bulls is to pull off an away win up against Northampton, which is not going to be easy to do. In fact, that will be, I think, actually harder to do than winning up against Bordeaux. And then from there, try and make it 2 wins from 2 in the URC, get into that top 8 and just continue to push towards the top 4 spots by the end of the year. But easier said than done, as we have learned.
Yeah, easier said than done. But speaking of teams that lose, again, we will go to the Lions.
Transition, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Lions lose to Benetton again, second time this season. And I believe the second time they've lost to Benetton at home. Great win against the Bulls last weekend, but this weekend just seemed to not turn up in the second half, because I saw the score being 18 points to 8 towards the end of the game, and I was like, okay, 10-point gap, it should be a win for the Lions. And then I checked the score much later, and I see Benetton won. I'm like, oh no, that was not supposed to be. That was not part of the plan. So yeah,
Well, it's just the classic Benetton second half, isn't it? When they're at home, they seem to be able to really bring it up to that next level when needed. Well, in fact, it was a home game for the Lions, wasn't it? In that matchup,
Mm,
who was at home for that game? I can't remember whether the
Lion.
Lions have a rough pool. I'm just going to have a quick look, make sure. Yeah, no, they were
Um,
at home. So Benetton just finding that extra momentum. Definitely, like once again,
mm,
it's at altitude. So these sides
it's
that normally play in altitude
mm,
always say about watch out for us in the later stages of the game, but it just seemed like the trend of the weekend was second halves were just not quite firing the way that the first halves were. The Lions doing nicely at some stages of that game, but to not get a bonus point from it for being within 7, I think that that is the most brutal part for the Lions, because we've got to remember they aren't
mm,
in the Champions Cup. This is the Challenge Cup, which means, if
mm,
you're lower in your group, you're gone out of the competition and you don't get that second chance like the Champions Cup sides do. So, every point is crucial. And now the
mm,
Lions, they have to go
yeah,
into their game next week up against the Newcastle Falcons, and they do need that win, but it's away from home. So that's a challenge in itself again.
mm, yeah, yeah. No, that will be a challenge. But one thing I did see from the game was that Thomas Albano's drop goal. I don't know if you've seen it, but a 50-meter drop goal, that was spectacular. So Benetton, they seem like the team to be right now, like in terms of second half comebacks. Like if you don't blow them away in the first half, just know they will or could come back.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the Lions concerning once again concerning. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're all good.
Yeah, very concerning. For the Lions, I don't know where they go from here because they play against Newcastle. And Newcastle just won away from home against Pau, which Pau is, if you look, Champions Cup. I think they up there. Um, no, sorry, not Champions Cup. Oh no, sorry, they don't play against Pau. They play against some other team. Sorry, no. Who they was the the Newcastle being? They beat. Oh,
They're up
they
against
beat
Lyon.
Lyon. Oh yeah, they beat Lyon away from mix up the French teams. But yeah, Lyon, and Lyon is in a bad side as well. From what I can remember,
Hmm.
like they reached the final of this, didn't they? Um, so of the Challenge Cup. So yeah. What do you? Where do the Lions go from here, in your opinion?
Well, they'll need at least, I believe, one win out of those two URC derbies up against South African sides. Up against Newcastle, to have any sort of chance of continuing in the competition, they need at least one bonus point. Whether that's for 4 tries because they go aggressive, or whether that's for kind of grinding out a close game and getting within 7. Because Newcastle are a very good side, like you mentioned, they can fire, and in front of that home crowd after getting an away win, normally you're welcomed with open arms from the stands. So it's not going to be an easy game for the Lions. They haven't got a massive list of Springboks to return into their side either, unlike some of the other South African teams. So the team that they used in
Mm,
their last game is pretty much the side that we're probably going to see up against Newcastle. It's a quick old turnaround, but
mm,
yeah, I would say 2 out of 3 victories to end out the year is exactly what the Lions need. But the reality is, if they get one of those 3, they're probably doing quite well.
yeah, yeah, no, they are. But going from the Lions to the Sharks, who seem to like they will have some change among them. They lose, but the new coach for them after they going against Toulouse, JP Peterson, now gonna take over the reign. what do you make of this decision as having? I think it's a stopgap almost. JP Peterson. Don't think he will be a full-time coach for them.
Yeah, it seems to be one that has split opinions from Shark supporters, but like it was due to have some sort of change in that Sharks environment. And honestly, I don't know if it is just the coach that is the problem at the moment for them. You know, you look through it recent years and they have really struggled at times, but they've got the player pool to be able to make a difference. And I actually really enjoyed watching them play up against Toulouse. Now, the end score didn't look too flash for them, but we've got to remember that was actually 5 tries scored by Toulouse in the last 16 minutes of the contest. Before that stage, the Sharks actually kept Toulouse scoreless for about, I want to say it was 40 minutes of that contest, and maybe Toulouse took their foot off the gas a little bit in the middle patch of the game, but the Sharks did show some decent fights. Some of the younger players in their side actually really stepping up. You know, someone like a Matt Ramal, Klakane, those type of players getting some huge experience up against a top side like Toulouse. But yeah, in the end, not quite able to pull off that bonus point, which once again, if you're away from home in a Champions Cup game, that's really what you want to set yourself the goal to get. Because if you don't receive that, then you're just always playing catch up with the rest of the sides. Currently, the Sharks, they do sit a second last in their group. Clermont actually had the minus 37 points differential as well. So those two sides are actually theoretically fifth equal at the moment. Saracens having a great win there. And now that's who the Sharks have to play next week. So it doesn't get, like, once again, it doesn't get any easier. But it's at least in Durban. So that's one bonus.
At least, I think if that was away from home, you could maybe see more than 37-point margin. But no, that great work from Toulouse. So yeah, but let's see with the Sharks. JP Peterson, I think if he wants to win over the fans and maybe the board, if he can win the South African derbies up against the Lions and the Bulls, then I think he might get himself a long-term job as head coach of the Sharks. Who knows? But so yeah, but I think the Sharks. Don't think I think the coach was part of the problem. I don't know if it was the sole problem, because I think there's lots of other factors in terms of the Springboks always playing and individual mistakes in terms of in the team. So yeah, but let's see. Maybe JP Peterson can do some magic with the Sharks. So yeah, hopefully not against us. He can do it against the Lions. It's fine. So yeah. But moving on from 15-man rugby to the Blitzboks, go back to back. And Australia women are back to winning ways. We'll start with the women, ladies first, of course. Australia women with a just dominant win over everyone really that they played. I think what the closest game was probably the final. Might have been the closest game. I'm not too sure, but yeah, watching them up in person on both days, they just seem so much like stronger, and the the skill set is just so much bigger than the other nations. So no, I think yeah, I just don't know what you say, what you say to them except praise them, really. So yeah, what did you make of it? Or
Well, I think that it's good that Australia won this league so that now them and New Zealand are on the same amount of points. I feel like that benefits everyone in terms of the competitiveness because the thing is, at the moment, it's a 2-horse race in the women's sevens. It doesn't seem like anyone is quite at that same level to be able to take down either the Black Ferns or the Australians. Now, France are probably the side that are, I would say, in third at the moment, and USA, Fiji, they seem to be jockeying for that other spot in the top 4, but there is a clear gap between the top 2 and everyone else. So as long as for Australia and New Zealand, one side doesn't win the next 3 or 4 in a row, because then that does really hurt the competitiveness, and we want to see it go down to the wire. The men's side of things at the moment, we've got 3 sides all on tied points at the top of the bunch. So that's great news, because, World Rugby cutting down on the sides means that you need it to be more competitive than ever, or else then it kind of makes their cutting down teams redundant. We saw the likes of an Argentina go from the last place in Dubai to now into the final up against the South Africans, which they were doing very well in up until those closing moments. But I think that we're going to see plenty more battles between Australia and New Zealand in the next few legs of the sevens, and perhaps it's going to be the probably final eventually, the end of the season as well.
Yeah, probably will be. But going on, speaking of the Blitzboks winning last minute win in Cape Town, go back to back. I think that what makes this one so good is that we didn't have an easy pool. We played Fiji, we played New Zealand, and we played France in the semi-final and Argentina in the final. Like, that's not an easy run now. Easiest game was probably Great Britain, but yeah, we don't speak about about them really, because that's just chaos over there in their team. So I think that's what make this one so much better, because we needed to beat everyone, like each tough team. I think for Argentina, I think their biggest thing looking live, it was the fitness of them, and that number 11 of them that was player of the year. Can't remember
Luciano
his name.
Gonzalez.
Yeah, him. Like, he's the only spark
Is
that
he
they have.
the only spark in that team? Marcos
He's
Mineta, does his name ring a bell?
he's like the only one that seems like he can create something out of nothing. Like one of the guys. Like, if you are stuck on your own try line, you pass him the ball and he will run through. Like, he seemed to be that guy. So yeah, but what did you make of it? Like, watching it from where you are.
Well, I do think that they definitely did deserve to win that final with the way that they were able to fight back. It wasn't the first time throughout the competition that they had to come back from a deficit to be able to go on and win it. And I do think that the home crowd really did play a big factor in the way that the Blitzboks were able to play throughout their second halves. Like that game up against Fiji, I mentioned it on the live stream as well. I think if that game took place in any other league of the sevens, South Africa lose that match. But because of the fact that it was in front of the Cape Town crowd, which, not many sides do get that advantage anymore in terms of having that home field advantage. Maybe Australia, when it goes to Sydney, we no longer get to see the Canadian men's side in action. The USA, we no longer have them for the LA Sevens. So, it's a bit of a luxury to be able to get that home field support. And for a lot of those young players, you could see how much it meant to them when they got through to that final and were able to eventually win it for the Blitzboks. It'll be a massive moment that they remember for a long time. But the job is not done. It's great, back-to-back in Cape Town, but now moving on to Singapore. That is where the damage has to be done for the Blitzboks. They have to continue this momentum because, not easy groups. Once again, it just seems to be that with the 8 sides, you're always going to have at least one very challenging side in your group. For the men's side of things, the next Singapore Sevens, it is Fiji, South Africa, Great Britain, and Spain in their group. So I would say that pretty much should give Fiji and South Africa a road through. On the other side, Argentina, France, Australia, New Zealand. So for me, that is the pool of death out of the 2 for the next leg, and that could honestly go in any direction out of the 4. But very intriguing. About 50 days away, I think it is, or maybe a little bit less, till we get to that next leg of the sevens.
Yeah. No, that's some tough pool, that pool B. So yeah, but even you have to even feel for Spain a bit. Like, they only lost out in terms of the semis point difference, and I think that's gonna be the trend for a few teams this year because we also saw it in Dubai. I think one of the teams also missed out on point difference. So yeah, but no, it needs they need to kick on now and go full throttle. So yeah, we can quickly just have a look at the standings of the Champions Cup and so to wrap it just up. Let's see, Champions Cup. So Saracens, Glasgow, and Toulouse won. Then Sale, you look, Sale got a bonus point and they're in fourth, and you only need to be top four to get through. So yeah, let me just zoom in a bit. That should be better. There we go. So yeah, the Sharks done fifth. Bath, Gloucester, Edinburgh. Edinburgh with a really big win over Toulon. I thought Edinburgh would win, but winning by 10 plus points, that's massive for them. Gloucester, Bath. Bath probably a dark horse this season in terms of Champions Cup. Maybe. La Rochelle, Leinster, Stormers. I thought Leinster would handle Harlequins a bit more easier, but only 17 points.
Yeah, those Quins love getting that second half going, though. They are one side that are really known for being able to do something in that second 40. But, yeah, I think that Leinster as well, they are a little bit similar, I think, to what we saw for Toulouse. They felt like they were in a comfortable enough position to win the game, so they didn't really fully push, I don't think, throughout the rest of that contest, maybe saving a little bit in the gas tank for their future games. This weekend, they've got the Leicester Tigers, who sit in sixth, but that does not mean that they'll be an easy beat. Definitely with the fact that that is a home game for the Leicester Tigers.
Oh, that's going to be a tough game for Leinster. Then Bordeaux, Northampton, Bristol, Scarlets, Bulls. No. Go back to the table.
That was just reflex, wasn't it? Clicking on the balls.
Yeah. Yeah. So Bordeaux, Northampton, Bristol. This pool is pretty much open because Scarlets and the Bulls got the bonus points. So yeah.
The fact that in that whole group, the biggest differential was minus 13 is quite impressive compared to some of those other groupings. You know, the top one, minus 37, was the biggest, minus 26 in pool 2. And then, as we can see there, that minus 19 for pool 3.
So, yeah, like this seems to be the pool. So, let's see what happens there. In terms of that, let's just quickly have a scan over the Challenge Cup. Zebra with a big win over them. 24 points. Wow, what a win for Zebra. Montpellier also winning against Black Lion. Black Lion were in front at stage 13-0, and I was like, oh, maybe an upset here. And then Montpellier just came back and kept them scoreless. Ospreys with a close one over Connacht. Connacht almost bottling it a bit. Because I think they were like 21-7 up or 21-5.
Do you know why Connacht don't get a bonus point for losing by only 3 in that game? Is there no bonus points in the Challenge Cup, or is it just that they haven't put them through?
They might have not put them through. Let's check on the Challenge Cup website. Let me have a look on the website. What does it say? Table. Full tables. There we go. Yeah, on the website I have given them a bonus point, and Ospreys also have a bonus point. So Ospreys have 5 and Connacht have 1. So Let me actually then share the website one, because otherwise it's gonna be us having to figure out the stuff. So yeah, that is how the pool sits. Again, yeah, zebra with the big one. Um, there. Pool two, very similar. The Lions still in the top four, but only because Leon lost bit further than the Lions did. And the Lions, they go away to Newcastle. That will be tough for them. But Birmingham, they seem like the team right now.
Yeah.
Let me just switch it to this. There we go. So yeah, that's how the pool sits. And then pool three, you've got Ulster, Exeter Chiefs, and Stade de France. God, I think yeah, the Cheetahs expected them to lose, but they put up a fight. To be fair, um,
Yeah.
in in some cases. So
I think the
yeah,
most surprising one is Racing's points differential now, seeing as they actually
yeah,
didn't do too badly last year. Now they're already playing catch up with 54 points down compared to any other side. So
mm,
for them to get into that top four, they've really got to push hard. And, every win from there and every point from there probably makes that little bit of a difference for them. But Ulster, they look
mm,
like they're going to be the side to beat in this whole Challenge Cup competition. I honestly feel like that's a little bit the same with the URC at the moment as well. They
yeah,
have been really going well throughout that comp.
yeah. No, they have really been going well. They've got Exeter at home. They would really want to get a win there.
Yeah,
Against Exeter at home. French team versus English team. So yeah, let's see. Let's see what it delivers. We can quickly have a look. Why not? We've got a bit of time. So a quick look at the sevens. So South Africa. Oh, okay. So this is also we've got South Africa on 32, Fiji on 32, New Zealand on 32 points, then 28 points, 26, 24, 18, and 16. Australia 38, New Zealand 38, Japan 28. The When Japan, I think what they beat USA, or the in the last game, the Japan women, when they won that game, the Captain crowd, I would have to say, um they went mad,
yeah.
for them. So now massive one for them. Who did they beat in the last game? Japan. I think it was like USA or France they beat. It's Japan. They beat Canada. Oh, last minute try. That's why. Like 10 was 10-5, and then a last minute try. So yeah. Uh, you see, like France, Australia, just of that, like when they're not too bad. Like it's not too bad of a gap. France, Australia, Argentina. Like if you can get like a third place next week, next time, one of these three teams will go into like the top three. So it's a tight battle for the men's. For the women, it's, it's really that battle for third place,
Yep.
because already like a 10-point gap. It's a bit too much. So yeah, but I think that's everything for this weekend. Thanks, Ian Names, for coming on. Any content you have coming up on your channel?
Champions Cup next weekend. It's going to be covered alongside a little bit of Challenge Cup, but now a bit of a break from the sevens, which is nice because I do enjoy sleeping at some stages, and the sevens just doesn't give you that opportunity, running off about 3 hours sleep for the weekend. But it's been very eventful the last little while in the world of rugby. But yeah, this weekend, it's pretty much, I would call it the moving day of the Champions Cup competition. This is when we're going to see sides book themselves the spot, at least looking good for the round of 16, and other sides dropping off and losing that opportunity. Of course, everyone gets that home and away game, and now this is the time for those sides that are at home this week to really make that statement.
Yeah, no, it is. And yeah, let's see what this next weekend delivers. And yeah, then we'll wrap it up on that. Thanks for coming on, Hamish, and make sure each one of you guys stay safe, and it's a lovely week, and we will meet again next week. Cheers, people.